Can we say that when we practice meditation, when our concentration is good, we attain jhana, we are able to see that our life, our worldly life is actually a delusion or an illusion. With that, we are able to attain. Is it what will happen? Is it very briefly what will happen? We will see that presently we see that our life is so real because of our consciousness. But if we practice meditation, with strong concentration, then with jhanas, we're able to break through what is false. That is, we can see our life, present life, is a delusion. Just as what we sleep, when we sleep, we see a dream. It's actually so real, but actually when we wake up, we see it's only a dream. It is not real. Can we conclude that?
Different people see differently. You might be able to see that. The other person may not see that. So it depends on the person. But studying the suttas is very important because if you don't study the suttas, a lot of things that should be obvious to us is not obvious. Then after we listen to the Buddha's words, then we see that, it's so obvious. Why didn't I think of it before? But one thing, suttas, we have to study again and again. We don't study the suttas like a storybook. Storybook we read once, you don't want to read anymore. We must study them every day until we die. And you become really knowledgeable in the suttas. Because I know from experience, sometimes I study a certain sutta, some very important implication I didn't see. Then after studying a few times, then I catch. For example, I give you an example. The Abhidhamma is one of the later books, later teachings. That is why, for example, it has some similarity with Mahayana teaching. What is that similarity? In Mahayana teachings, they talk about Liu Tao Lun Hui, 6 destinations of rebirth. And Abhidhamma also talks about 6 destinations of rebirth. But in the early discourses of the Buddha only talked about 5 destinations of rebirth, without the asura. Okay? We have 2 happy destinations of rebirth, which is heaven and human plane. And then we have 3 woeful planes of existence, which is ghost, animal, and hell realm. And then Mahayana books added the asuras. And Abhidhamma also added the asuras. Now, how come they added the asuras? Because we know that asuras like to fight, like to quarrel and fight, very violent nature, and they like to drink liquor. So people thought if they are like that, they must have some mental dukkha. So later books like the sub-commentary, they said there are 3 types of asura. One is the heavenly asura, heavenly beings. Then you have the ghost asura. Then you have the hell being asuras. They thought those beings who torture you when you go to hell, they must be like asuras, so fierce to torture you. So they came to that conclusion. Now, if you study the Digha Nikaya, and you must study suttas like using a comb, trying to find all the small details. Then you notice in one of the suttas in the Digha Nikaya, the Buddha mentioned that the lowest type of asuras is called the Kalakanja asuras. Kalakanja, so that's the very lowest already. You cannot find lower than that. And then there's another sutta in the Digha Nikaya where a lot of devas came to pay respect to the Buddha. They came from very far away. Then the Buddha told his Arahant disciples, he said, you see, today the hosts of devas from the 10,000 world systems have come to pay respect to the Tathagata. And then the Buddha mentioned their names, this type of powerful deva, that type of powerful deva. And then he mentioned Kalakanja asuras. So you see, Kalakanja asuras are up in the heavens. So how can you find asuras in the ghost realm and in the hell realm? That is the lowest type of asuras already. And they are not found in the 4 great heavenly kings, They are even higher than that. They are found in Sakha Devaraja, Tavatimsa heavens. So it's because, a lot of people, they read the suttas, they didn't notice this. Because I read the suttas many times, I notice. Just like nowadays, these scholars, they do a lot of research and then they find out all these facts about Jesus.
Bhante,
Yeah.
you mentioned that there are various Nikayas, Dika, Anguttara, Majjhima, and I forgot.
Samyutta.
Okay. Is there an order? I mean, if we want to learn the suttas, which one do we have to start first? Or we can start with any one?
I have written a book called Liberation, Relevance of Sutta Vinaya. And in that book, I have tried to point out the importance of studying the suttas. And at the end of the book, I did say that if you want to study the Nikayas, it's easiest to start with Anguttara Nikaya, because it has many suttas related to lay people. Okay, and also I have spoken about 55 hours of talks on the Anguttara Nikayas, and I have made it into MP3. There are 2 MP3s. So if you listen to those talks where I have read out the sutta, and sometimes, these suttas, because they were translated by professors, their English is very high class. So I have simplified some of the English so that our Malaysians can understand. And then after reading the sutta, I try to explain and compare it with other suttas. So if you listen to my Anguttara Nikaya talks, it will be much easier to understand than to read the books. But if you want, at the same time you read the book, at the same time you listen to my talks and compare, then you understand better. When I go back later, I can try to get this book, Liberation, sent to you all. And if you can download my talks from our website, VBG.net.
Bhante, can I ask another question?
Sure.
Very often you hear people, saying that they have done a lot of work for the society, a Buddhist society, I've done a lot of Dhamma work, Can you classify, people coming to the temple, to help and all that? Is that worldly work or Dhamma work? So what's the difference between worldly work and Dhamma work?
If you do any work that helps to propagate the Dhamma or help people to practice the Dhamma, then you can say that is Dhamma work. For example, it's like you arrange this talk and you do all the publicity to inform people about this talk, or you organize a retreat for meditation, or you organize Sunday Dhamma school where you teach the children some Dhamma. All that is Dhamma work. But there are some Buddhist societies where they are a little worldly. They may organize dancing and all that. That is not Dhamma work. That is more of social work. You find some Mahayana centers, they like to do all this social work. Charity, free clinic, all that. That is not Dhamma work. So we have come to the Dhamma. Our importance, the important part of our work, it should be to teach the Dhamma, to propagate the Dhamma, to practice the Dhamma. The other things we can do, if we have the time, we have the money and resources and all that, like teaching yoga or teaching English and all that. So we should concentrate. If we don't know our what is important from what is not important, then we will be wasting our time. Just like some monks, they renounce, become a monk, and then they do charity, do social work. It's not that it's not good, it's good, but then it's not fitting. Why don't you become a layman and make a lot of money like Bill Gates, and then do charity? Bill Gates does a lot of charity, much better than you can do when you wear robes. Can metta meditation attain jhana? Actually, in the suttas, if you study the suttas, you will find that the Buddha said to practice metta, you have to attain jhana first. After you attain jhana, then you practice metta, then you can radiate metta out. And other beings can feel it because you have that strength of mind. So nowadays, because people don't stress on jhana, people straight away go into metta. So we imagine, we send out a lot of metta, but other beings don't feel. When I was young, I was in a Catholic school, and these Christian brothers used to give us holy pictures, of Christian saints. And remember, sometimes you get this Christian saint with the birds sitting on his shoulder and sitting on his head, and the deer will come to him and all that. This type of holy person, he really has metta, so that even other beings can feel it. And that is achieved through strong samadhi. All arahants have jhana, and because all arahants have jhana, their mind is so peaceful that it influences the area around them to be very peaceful. That's why the Buddha said, wherever you find an arahant, that whole area is very peaceful. And this anapanasati, if you look into the suttas, the Buddha didn't say that practicing anapanasati means looking at this point or looking at this point. Anapanasati is to be aware of the breath, It's only later books like the Visuddhimagga, they say be aware the tip of your nose or the top of your lips and all that. That is not what the Buddha taught. Buddha taught just be aware of the breath going in and out.
Ante, just like you mentioned about the metta meditation that it's only when you reach jhana, then you do it, you can radiate metta, whatever. I agree on that, but I find that if laymen practice it, there is some goods as well, because it's just a training of you always thinking goods about other people's. The longer you train, actually you cultivate yourself to be always thinking about good things. So actually will change your attitude, your personalities as well.
Correct also.
Yeah.
Correct also. For people who cannot attain jhana, then you can start by thinking of goodwill towards all beings and compassion and all that. And from your bodily actions, instead of your vibrations, people can perceive your loving kindness through your body language, through your verbal language.
I want to ask if for one person have a lot of his mind have a lot of things disturb him, can he practice meditation because he have some tension or some illusion? So can he use a meditation to cure this kind of the delusion, or have some psychology problem?
Yes, actually that is the aim of meditation. We want to get a hold of our mind, to control our uncontrolled mind. But then for most people, practicing anapanasati is quite difficult, very difficult. So if people have difficulty practicing the breath meditation, it is easier to practice chanting. In fact, the first meditation taught by the Buddha was actually chanting. It was a meditation on the 32 parts of the body. During the Buddha's time, they chanted in their local language. Like for me, I chant in English. I do like head, hair, body, hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinew, bone, marrow, kidney, heart, liver, midriff, spleen, lung, bowel, entrail, gorge, dung, brain, bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tear, grease, spittle, snot, oil of the joint, urine. So you see, there are so many things to remember. So when you chant like this, First you write it all down. You write it all down and then you look at it and you chant. No need to try to memorize because it's quite difficult to memorize. You just hold the sheet and chant. After 4 months, then it becomes like a tune in your head. So it becomes automatic. So chanting is much easier. Chanting is much easier. But for most people, it's very difficult to chant so long. So you chant Namo Tassa, Bhagavato, Arahato, Samma Sambuddhassa, Namo Tassa, Bhagavato, Arahato, Samma Sambuddhassa. I still find that difficult for some people. Arahang, 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 Arahang. Like the Hindus, they do it also. They call it japa. From there, maybe the Malays call it jampi. Japa, they chant like Om, 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 Om. I was practicing Hinduism. I was a Hindu before I was a Buddhist.
You mentioned that it's good to study about the sutta. The origin of sutta is in Pali language. So is it encourageable to study Pali so we have a deeper understanding, original understanding of the sutta?
It is good to study Pali, especially if a person is a monk. But then you have to see whether you have the inclination and the time. If a person goes into monkhood later in life, then he doesn't have so much time. Then he should probably want to have more time to meditate. So when he studies, it is enough to study the translation, the English translation. I find there are some people and some monks who study Pali, and then they become so engrossed in that Pali that they spend sometimes a few months to study one sutta. During that few months, I studied so many suttas, all the translations. So I find, because I did study a bit of Pali on my own, but I've forgotten most of it. But I know how to use the Pali dictionary, so that sometimes when I read a translation, I have some doubt. I have some doubts. Then I go and check the Pali. Check the Pali. For example, in the translation, the early translations by the Pali Text Society, and they talk about this metta. There is a word, I think it's metta ceto vimutti or something like that, and they translate it as liberation of mind, liberation of the heart by loving kindness. Liberation of the heart by loving kindness. Then I look at this translation, I find it doesn't seem very, something wrong somewhere. So when I check the Pali, then I find there is this word metta, loving kindness. There is this word vimutti, which they translate as liberation. And then there is this word ceto, which is mind. Okay. And they translate it as heart. So when I look at these words, then I find actually what they are trying to mean is loving kindness radiated by the mind. When a person has strong samadhi, then he can radiate loving kindness using the mind. So this word vimutti, although it is liberation, but a similar word for liberation is radiation. Radiation. So here is more appropriate to use loving kindness radiated by the mind instead of liberation of the heart by loving kindness. So, for most of us, it is not necessary to learn Pali. It takes too long. If you concentrate on studying the suttas again and again, you will get the essence of it. What we want is the essence, the understanding. There are some people who are scholars, they study the Pali and they become so absorbed in the origin of the word and all that. They spend too much time. So their understanding of the suttas is very little, but their understanding of Pali is so much.
Actually, just now you are talking the chanting for the person who have a lot of mind problem. I want to ask, can you recommend one book for this kind of person to read to build his confidence before go for chanting? Or is there any book you can so that they can build their confidence before they go for meditation and chanting?
I've written 2 basic books on the Dhamma that beginners would benefit by reading it. One is called Only We Can Help Ourselves. It is about Karma Vipaka. I think the book is outside there. You can get it outside. It's in English. We have the Chinese translation also called Ming Yin Yu Chi Qi Chang Wo, I think. And then the other book is The Message of the Buddha. Message of the Buddha is about the 4 Noble Truths, the basic understanding of the 4 Noble Truths. That also has been translated into Chinese. So if a person studies these 2 books, he has a foundation in the Dhamma, and he might be more interested to practice. But there are some people with some mental problem or some traumatic experience. Might be dangerous for them to meditate. If they meditate, then they may have a breakdown. For example, if a girl is jilted by a boyfriend and she's heartbroken, keep thinking about the boy, he starts to meditate. Instead of meditating on the breath, he's meditating on the boyfriend. Then sometimes such people, they go and commit suicide. Last night when I was in Chimpaka, I quoted an example in the suttas to make people understand how the power of jhana. In the suttas, it is mentioned that the Buddha had a few anagamin lay disciples. And we find that when the Buddha wanted to find his earliest disciples, he would, this is my personal opinion, he would go to those people who had attained jhana in the previous, either in their previous human existence or in the present lifetime. And the earliest 1,000 over arahants mentioned in the Vinaya books, the Buddha went to all these type of people and just preached the sutta to them. Never asked them to meditate, just asked them to sit quietly and listen carefully. Then when he preached the suttas to them, they all attained arahanthood. So there was this case of this lay person. He was a very, very wealthy man. I think had 4 wives and a lot of slaves to entertain him. Every day the slaves will sing and dance for him, and he will drink himself drunk. So one day he was in that drunken state, and the Buddha purposely came and walked in front of his house. So because he had this affinity with the Buddha from the past life, the sight of the Buddha immediately struck him, like lightning. The sight of the Buddha made him suddenly stare at the Buddha, and he immediately sobered up, no more drunk. And then from there, he went to the Buddha, and he knew that this was his teacher. And then that he followed the Buddha, and He became an Arya. So you see, how can a person, an ordinary person, just like that, sober up suddenly and shake off all that drunkenness? That is the power of jhana. Jhana is the ability of the mind to focus so strongly, like a laser beam. That is very important quality. If you have that ability, when you listen to the Dhamma, you're able to focus like that. Immediately, you attain something. We find from the suttas and the Vinaya, those people who enter the stream, all enter the stream by listening to the Dhamma. It's never mentioned in the suttas and the Vinaya anyone who attains stream entry by meditation. Never mentioned. Because the Buddha said, stream entry is synonymous with right view. Right view is the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Buddha said, you have not attained right view, you have not entered the Noble Eightfold Path. That's why I mentioned just now, somebody can meditate for 20 over years and in the end throw away Buddhism. Hasn't entered the path. So, we find in the suttas and the Vinaya, those people who had no jhana, when they listen to the Four Noble Truths taught by the Buddha, they attain stream entry. Whereas those people with jhana, when they listen to the same sutta, either is anagamin or arahant. Yes. But not in that way. The Buddha said, the Noble Eightfold Path can also said to be consist of three factors: sila, samadhi, panya. Okay, the Buddha said, the Sotapanna and the Sakadagamin, they have perfect sila. The Anagamin has got perfect sila and samadhi. The Arahant has got perfect sila, samadhi, and panya. So you see here, the Sotapanna and the Sakadagamin doesn't need perfect samadhi. Perfect samadhi is the four jhanas. There's another misconception. Some people think, you practice jhana because you are greedy for psychic powers. It's not true. All the arahants have jhanas, but about 1/3 of them have no psychic power. Sariputta, Venerable Sariputta is a classic example. He has all the jhanas according to the Majjhima Nikaya. In spite of having all the jhanas, he said he could not even see the mud sprite in the, if there's a pool of water and there's a mud spirit there, he said he can't even see it because he was praising Moggallana. So Buddha so far away, the Mahamoggallana could see the Buddha, could talk to the Buddha. It's like a TV screen in front of him. Whereas he said, even the mud sprite in front of him also he cannot see. So you see, that doesn't mean you have jhanas that you will have psychic power. No, about 1/3 of arahants don't have psychic power. The other thing, some people have the misconception, if you attain jhana, you are reborn in the Brahma world or in the form realm. Also not true. Only if you constantly absorb yourself in that jhana, day in, day out, day in and day out, then only you are reborn there. You see, like our Buddha, when the Buddha Kassapa was around, our Buddha renounced and became a monk under the Buddha Kassapa. And in that lifetime, he attained the first jhana. Because, why we say that? Because when he came out after that life, he went to Tusita heaven. After Tusita heaven, he came down in his last life as Siddhartha Gautama. And as a young boy, Siddhartha Gautama could enter the first jhana under the Jambu tree. So, he didn't attain it in the Tusita heaven. He must have attained it when he was a disciple of Buddha Kassapa. Okay? So you see, when he attained the first jhana after the Buddha, after following the Buddha Kassapa, he wasn't born in the Brahma heavens. He was born in the Tusita heaven. From the Tusita heaven, he came down to earth, the human plane. Yeah. So there's a lot of misconceptions because people are not so familiar with the suttas.